You are now listening to the Dad Rules Podcast with your hosts, Mario E. and Key.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Dad Rules Podcast, where we help you dad better. I'm one of your hosts, Mario E. and Kid. We got a special guest today. You want to shout him out?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? We got Mike Hines from the Jus BS'n podcast with us. We're excited about him being on here. Welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Man, I appreciate it, man. Long time fan, day one fan. Great podcast, man. From when you first told me about it, man, we always exchanged different ideas, even when I was doing mine.
Most definitely.
And still doing it, but you know what I'm saying? I'm glad to be a guest, man. Long time waiting.
Good stuff. Well, I got something else I want to share today. We got the merch loading today, Mario. Check me out. Check me out, Mario.
I see it. You got to ship those to me, man. I got to get some too.
Yeah.
I know I get free. I know I can get a free pair.
Hold on, Hines. We're gonna hook you up with something, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that yet. But yeah, we're excited to have you here today, man. And let's get into it. So first off, just tell us, who you are and where you're from.
All right, so my name Mike Hines. From Portsmouth, Virginia, man. One of the greatest cities in the world, man. I encourage anybody, if you in the 7th of Portsmouth, man. But yeah, man, I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia, man. Born and raised. I spent majority of my life there. A year I stayed in Waycross, Georgia, where my family is originally from. But like I said, man, I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia, Charlestown to be exact. Went to Shaw University on a scholarship. And I'm here now.
Yeah, so that's actually where I can kind of segue into that. That's actually where we met at. Looked like we met during intramural football. Well, at first you were on my hall.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going up to you and be like, "Hey man, what's going on?" And you were like, "My name Hines." And this is the thing he was saying, Mario, right? You asked him what his name is. He said Hines. And people be like, Hines. He like, yeah, Hines like the ketchup.
Man,
so,
yeah.
But seemed like after, we met on the hallway, like we were kind of running together ever since. And, things hadn't really changed over the years. Just got closer and just been a good friend over the years. But can you tell us about like your major and like what kind of work you're doing now?
All right, so undergrad, I majored in recreation, man. Honestly, when I went to Shaw on a scholarship, and I got a track scholarship, but I was supposed to be on a football and a track scholarship. I literally went to school just to play sports. So when I got there, they was like, what you want to major in? And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I literally didn't know. So then I was like, well, I want to be a PE teacher, but Shaw didn't have physical education. So they told me, all right, this is what you do. You major in recreation and you get your minor in education. So I'm like, okay. And they was like, depending on where you at, then you could transition that to PE because it'll qualify under some counties. So undergrad, I got that major, but I never got my minor because once I graduated, I was like, man, I'm not going back to school to get my minor. I'm not staying another year to get a minor originally. But then a couple of years went by, I started working in the mental health field. And I always wanted to work with some type of mental health or autistic kids and things like that. So I'm like, man, I'm gonna do social work because kids was always getting placed in like group homes and the system wasn't really working for them. So I wanted to be that gap.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting my master's in clinical mental health counseling.
Cool.
Right now, I'm working at Kennesaw State as a registered counselor, but I'm in the process of studying to get my license to be a fully licensed clinical mental health counselor right now.
Right.
What's up? That's what's
Right.
up.
That's what's up. Trying to kind of give back. And I think it's good when we can find careers where we have a deeper purpose and really fulfilling who we want to be and what we want the world to be in our lives.
That's right, man. Because like honestly, I remember having impactful male figures, but I also don't remember having a person that like I could really fully express myself in a no judgment free zone, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
I didn't have that growing up. Or I may have had it, but I just wasn't open and inclined to reach out to this person.
And I mean, let's just be real, man. And like, guys, we know what it was like when we were growing up. You weren't supposed to talk about your feelings. You're supposed to be a man. You know, you're supposed to go through whatever you got to go through. No matter how hard it is. You're not supposed to tell nobody how you're feeling. It's because don't nobody care. You know what I'm saying? You're expected to provide, you're expected to protect, and all of that stuff comes into the equation. So then when we do find out that we have some issues going on in the mind or we need some extra help or whatever, then we're afraid to go out there and get that extra help. But then when we get the extra help, are we able to find somebody that we feel comfortable with talking to? Are we able to find somebody who looks like us? Right. So I just feel like what you're doing is going to be successful because of who you are. As long as you continue to be who you are and let guys that look like us feel comfortable when they come in and talk to you, I think you can have a really successful business.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. I know one, no matter who I was networking with, like when I was working at the hospital, anytime an outside counselor, payee, social worker, somebody who had parental guardianship over people, man, walking them from the unit back to the exit. I always talk to people, man. And one thing they always told me, they was like, we need more African-American males in this field, and it's going to grow, and you're going to be successful once you hit that.
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing we talk about with every dad or guest that we have on the show, we like to ask them the one question that we ask everybody, and is, can you tell us about your relationship with your dad?
Okay, all right. So my relationship with my dad, man, right now, we are closer than ever. Me and him have a great relationship, man. I could call my pops and we could talk about everything but what's going on between us. And it's crazy because growing up, him and my mom got divorced, I want to say around 5. I was like 4 or 5 when they got divorced. My sister is the firstborn. So like growing up, we wasn't tight. But we wasn't bad. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and make it seem like he was a deadbeat dad, because he wasn't. He was a great dad, but growing up, like, we just didn't have that like tight bond.
Now I said, what do you think is built that wedge in between you all where you couldn't have a good relationship when you were younger?
All right, so I'm not gonna say we didn't have a good relationship, but we just wasn't tight. We wasn't close, man. When they got divorced, my mom started her life, he started his life. And I think because I was so young, we didn't never like have that connection versus my sister. My sister is 4 years older than me. So if I was 5, she was 9. So she had more years to have that bond with him. I feel like that 5 elementary year age, that's critical. So I was with my mom. Now, my dad, like, when it came to sports, he took me to the football practice, picked me up. He was at the games or whatnot like that. But when he started his family, it was just honestly different. So you also gotta think about it like this. My mom got married again. I was in a wedding. My dad got married. I wasn't in a wedding. But not only did he get married, I didn't even know he was getting married till after he got married. Then when he started his family, it's hard to explain because like my dad is so laid back. He's a man of little words.
Yeah.
But when he speaks, it's impactful.
So him being in a relationship with another woman or getting married to somebody, he's so laid back that, you know, they say, let's do it this way. He kind of more like, all right, that's cool, whatever, you know, and not really.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I'm kind of like that now.
Right.
Like I'm like that. My mom always say, the older you get, the more you act like your dad. And my wife be like, you act just like your daddy.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, long as you happy, I'm happy. And that's how he is.
What do you think you, I guess, wanted to see your dad do? Do you feel like it was something more he could have done, you know, other than taking you to football practice? Or do you feel like that's where he felt like he could fit in?
Yeah. In my household, it was different. I lived with my mom. So my mom was the provider. My mom was the protector. Now, at the end of the day, do I believe my dad would have been a protector? Without a doubt. Well, he would have been a provider? Without a doubt. But that's how the household was. My mom, the one that had to make sure everything was right. So to give you an example, I remember I got in trouble in school. And it was to the point where they said, he can't go to field trips unless a parent go with him. And I remember like what I did for them to say that. But my mom automatically said, well, I'm not taking off of work. And being that my dad had his own business, he was a security guard for the neighborhood where we stayed at.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he worked overnight. So my dad would be the one that go to the field trips with me. He also worked in the public, Portsmouth public school system. So if I was to get in trouble in school, they will call him because the connection. Not knowing just because you call him, it's going to change how I act.
Yeah.
Now, if you call, normally if they call y'all mom, you're going to have that conversation with your mom. She go talk to your dad to be easy. It was different. Call my dad. Don't call Paula.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But that was the type of thing. The roles was reversed for me. But I'm not trying to discredit his fatherhood, his fatherness, or his manhood. It was just how it was.
So your mom was the disciplinarian, you said?
Yeah, without a doubt. Okay. I think my dad disciplined me maybe one time in my whole life.
Yeah. I guess I kind of look at it if dad, is not in the home and trying to maintain a good relationship with you, maybe he's trying to reach you with discipline in another type of way other than, physically. Did he have those good conversations like, hey man, you need to get yourself together? It won't like that.
Nah, my mom and dad disciplined two different ways. My dad was the type of person, why are you doing that? Such and such, such and such. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, what can you say? Now, my mom, she was the one who gave me a whooping. Mm-hmm. She was the one that put me on punishment. But my mom also allowed me to make mistakes and learn from my mistakes.
Okay.
And she will allow me to determine what happens. All right, so she had a conversation with me. And then she was like, all right, so do you want to be on punishment or do you want to get a beat? So, you know what I'm saying? Of course, I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to get the beat, take this, then I'm outside.
Yeah.
Then got to a point where she was like, which one you want to do? You want to get a beating or you want to get on punishment? All right, I'm going to get a beating. You go get a beating and you go be on punishment. You know what I'm saying? So then, you know what I'm saying? But my mom is real down to earth.
Yeah.
I promise you, like, my mom is down to earth, man. Like, she allowed me to make mistakes and learn from my mistakes. That's one of the most important lessons that I remember. And she would have those conversations with me.
Yeah.
She would have those conversations with me. And my last beat from her is the one I remember the most. And I think that one really changed me from getting in trouble and stuff. It's 6th grade.
Gonna change his life.
Changed my life, man. And like, believe it or not, after that, whenever I did something, it put me in a position and I'm prepared for the consequences that comes with this.
Yeah.
So no matter what I did, that's always the end result.
Right. Right. So let's talk about, Dad, you said relationship wasn't as good in the beginning, but then now y'all are like really close. First, when did that change start to come? And then why do you think that change came?
All right, so I think that change started once I got to college. Literally, once I got to college, man, that first week of school, he probably called me 100 times.
Okay.
What they doing? They on the yard? Y'all on the yard chilling? What's going on? Such and such come out. What y'all doing?
Yeah.
Y'all. So it got to the point that I stopped answering the phone.
Wow.
I literally stopped answering the phone. I called my mom. I said, Mom, my daddy keep calling me, such and such. And she had to talk to him and be like, you gotta let him grow. That's when I first, like, now that I'm older, that's when it first happened. But I think we got closer once my son was born.
Oh, man.
Once my son was born, I started making the initiative to become closer with him. Not saying we wasn't close.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a great father and he did what he's supposed to.
Yeah.
But I think once my son was born, the connection between us built our connection. Because at first I was like, all right, I'll wait for him to call me. He don't call me, I don't call him. The phone worked 2 ways. But that's just, and I understand my dad. You know what I'm saying? That's just my dad. Like, me and my sister, like, we have a saying, like, if such and such happened, we'd be like, oh, that's just such and such.
Yeah.
And my wife used to be like, well, no, you can't say that's just such and such because that's not fair. But I'm like, that's just such and such.
You are like that. You are like
that.
Yeah. When things happen and even things that happen in our group, and I might talk to Hines and be like, man, I'm so frustrated. Like, that didn't happen right. Or why did such and such do that? And Hines is just kind of like, you got to accept people for who they are. You just got to take them for who they are. And me being, like we talked about before we started recording, I'm a black and white type of person. Like, I can't stand gray areas. That's a hard pill for me to swallow, that's just how that person is. You got to be more lenient with that person. I'm like, no, you with me, you with me. If you're not with me, you against me. But Hines has helped me over the years to realize that you have to handle people differently. And it doesn't mean that people don't love you, but they just are who they are.
Facts.
So,
and it took a while for me, man, because, like, I have different set of friends. I have different set of friends, man. I have college friends. I have friends who have, like, businesses. I have friends that do stuff that they don't supposed to do. And I understand certain people are who they are. Liar. He's gonna lie. That's him. But I also know with that friend, I know when he's telling the truth and I know when he's lying.
Yeah. Okay, so you brought up an interesting point about how you and your dad, the relationship, y'all had a relationship, but you guys weren't as close as you are now. And you said that the change actually took place when your son was born. So let's talk about when you became a father and your lady came to you and said, hey, I'm pregnant. Like, how did you feel at that moment? And what was going on in your mind?
All right, so at the moment when she told me, it was like, all right, man, what we gonna do? Like, it was rough at first because me and her was going through typical relationship stuff, man. If anybody ever hit adversity, you know how it is to be in a relationship. So we didn't know what we was going to do because she was thinking about going back to Charlotte because she had just finished school. I was in Raleigh. But once we said, okay, we're going to make this happen. We're going to do what we got to do. We're going to move forward. I was happy, man. Like, I'm like, yo, I'm about to have love me. Like from the start, I always said I was going to have a boy.
Yeah.
The hardest thing was thinking about a name because I'm a junior. And I always said growing up, I want to have a third. But then when I got older, I was like, man, I want him to have his own life. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna name him nothing. But then my wife was like, we're gonna name him after you. And I was like, I don't want to name him after me. Then she was like, well, what name can you think of? And I'm like, Michael. So like it was like it was set in stone right then and there. And it was like I told my mom. My mom was happy. So I told my dad, and my dad, I didn't even tell my dad. I just gave him the ultrasound. So my dad was like, boy. So like, you know what I'm saying? So he was like, boy. And like, if you know my dad, like, he was happy.
Yeah.
But he don't really show emotions.
Right.
He really don't show emotions, but he was happy. And he gave me some of the best advice when I asked him that. I'm like, all right, so Dad, I said, what advice do you have so I could be prepared? He was like, one day at a time. And I'm like, what? What? Man, what? I said, out of all this, you could only say one day at a time. I even called my mom. I said, Mom, I just asked this such and such. And only thing he said, one day at a time. He was like, well, you know how your daddy is. So then, you know what I'm saying? It like, he was born. He was born not even a full month. My wife had problems from the epidural. Like they ended up messing it up. So like she was having like real bad headaches. So like literally like that first week, her mom was here and I was literally letting her get her rest. I was taking the role or whatever, besides when she was pumping and things like that. And I want to say maybe like, it was probably more than a month, but one day I called him and I was like, I understand when you said take it one day at a time. And he was like,
Yeah.
So like
that was expecting some groundbreaking advice, something that you never heard of before.
Right, man. Like, you know, when you look at the TV shows, you know, these dads give great advice or whatever. And that was by far the greatest advice that he ever gave me in my life. And to this day, anybody who asks me for advice, I give them two advice. The first one I said is your child, raise them how you want to. Don't listen to these old people saying put oatmeal in the bottle so they could sleep more. And I say, take it one day at a time.
Right.
That's the only two advice I give anybody who have kids. I ain't here to try to tell you how to raise your kids, but I tell them one day at a time. And that's the greatest advice my father ever gave me in life. Wow. To this day. Because you will have some days that's good, you will have some days that's bad. Some days gonna be better than this day. So yeah, man, that's how I felt, man. But going back to the original question, man, I was excited, man, especially when I found out I was having a boy.
Yeah.
So when I was telling people, everybody automatically, boy, she tall, you tall, y'all go have a wide receiver, son. This. And I'm like, well, chill, relax.
Yeah. So that's a good segue into, you know, the advice piece. And I was talking to one of my high school friends' father, and he was talking about some of the greatest advice he had got. And like, we here on the Dad Roots podcast, we talk about having a dad council. And dad council is a combination of older dads that you have in your life, guys that have influenced you from a young age, guys that are your age. And then also we like to mentor younger fathers as well. And this man, now that I think about it, I think about all the times that, because we played baseball and basketball together when we were like at the age of 5 and 6 years old, coming all the way up. And then we ended up playing high school football together. So this man was a part of my life all the way up. I had a great dad, but this was another dad in the community that I saw taking his son to practice. I saw spending quality time with his son. And he was telling me about some of the greatest advice that he had gotten. And his advice was, be the dad that you always wanted, not necessarily the dad that you had. And I thought about that, man, and it gave me chills when he said that, because I think about my dad, and my dad is a great dad, man. Great dad. I mean, I don't have any complaints about my dad. But when he said, be the dad that you always wanted, I'm like, man, I had a great dad. But he said, but not necessarily the dad that you had. And so now I take that into consideration. I'm like, I had a good dad. I had a really good dad. But still, you got to be that dad that you wanted too. My dad was everything I wanted. You know what I'm saying? But he just made me think on a whole different level with that. But I appreciate that advice. And like, sometimes you don't really realize the influence that people have on your life until you get older and you start having kids, and you like, man, all of y'all helped me to be the dad that I am today.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. I know when my son was born, man, the one thing I've always said is I want to be that father that's in the house. Right. Because it was different, man. Like, it's normal to me. But society paints a picture. You're supposed to be married. Then you have your kids. And it was opposite. Me and her wasn't married. I had my son. Then years later, we got married.
Yeah.
My best friend, I think did they get married? I think they might have got married either right before the son was born or right after. But I grew up, man, like the first part of my years, I think I knew 2 people who was in a household with their mother and father.
Yeah.
Besides one who mom and dad was in their household.
Yeah.
Now my little sister is different. Mom and dad is in the household together from birth to now. So like it wasn't normal to see a father and a mother in the household together. You might have a mother and a stepdad, or a mom and a longtime boyfriend. But it wasn't a mom and a dad. Right. On a day-to-day basis, friends that I hung with on a day-to-day basis. Now, of course, I had some people that I knew who mom and dad was together, but necessarily might not be. They might have an older sister, but the dad is not their dad. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how it was.
So you mean you definitely recognize, not being in the home with your dad, the importance of being in the home with your son.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. That's one thing I like, man. That's one thing, because I knew how it felt not to have your dad in the house.
Yeah.
And I even when my mom got married again, her husband, I tried to use that. Like, I remember saying, "Hey, can I call you dad?" But it didn't feel right. And I recognized this at 6, 7.
Yeah.
I tried to, what I'm saying, because his friends, the 2 friends that I was saying, his friends were those fathers who was in the home with them. but it still ain't feel right. Great guy. Like they got married, they ended up getting divorced, but then they got back together later. Mm-hmm. But by the time he came back, I was in high school. Yeah. So, I mean, what can you tell me? I mean, you really can't discipline me. Not that he did when I was little. Yeah. But it's only but so much you can say.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you just gonna have that conversation with my mama, and my mom is gonna be the one that address what happened.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, what would you say? Because how old is your son now?
Trey is about to turn 7, February 24th.
Okay, so in 7 years, what was your proudest moment?
In the 7 years, my proudest moment?
Yeah.
For Trey?
Yeah.
I probably would say when he learned how to ride a bike. like, and I say this because I really didn't have to teach him. My son, our kids is brought up on this YouTube era.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So anything they want to learn, they look at YouTube. Mm-hmm. So like for me, I remember my next door neighbor taught me how to ride a bike in like 30 minutes. My mom was like, hey, teach him how to ride a bike. I'll give you, I think it was like $10. 30 minutes came back, taught him how to ride a bike. My older cousin didn't know how to ride a bike. I taught him how to ride a bike. Mm-hmm. So then Trey had a bicycle, with the training wheels or whatever. So I finally ended up taking the training wheels off and took him to the park. Probably like 10 minutes he was riding the bike. Okay. So like that's how he is. Like he learned how to skateboard off of YouTube. Yeah. Basketball. He just started playing basketball this year. Uh-huh. Shout out LeBron James, because if it wasn't for Space Jams 2, he wouldn't be playing basketball. Right. So like it's those things that I'm proud of. And I don't want to be the athlete parent that only cares about that. Right. But I know like when it comes to school and whatnot, I can only teach him math. Mm-hmm. That was my favorite subject. That's what I was good at. And he loves math. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing that I'm proud of. Yeah. Out of him. It's a lot of stuff that he do, man, that I'm proud of. But there's also a lot of stuff that he do that get on my nerves. And I'm like, yo, Trey, man, come on, man. Like, you too old, man. But then when you look at it, you be like, he's only 6.
Yeah, that's dad stuff. Stuff.
You know what I'm saying? And I try to take how I was raised and put on him, but it's some stuff that I also remember how I was raised that I didn't like.
Yeah. I think that proud thing that you was talking about, it made me think about how, with them being in this YouTube era and being where they can just pick up the remote and watch whatever they want to in that instant. And it's so much stuff trying to keep them in the house, the games and everything, that I'm proud sometimes when I can just take him outside and he just loves it, or he wants to go outside. Because that's one thing that I don't want him to lose, is that drive to want to go outside and play with his friends, because that's what I came up with. You get home from school, you go in, do your homework, and you come right back out. Or, man, you come home from school, man, you go to the house, just put your book bag in the door, and then you go right back out, do your homework later or whatever. Yeah. I don't want him to miss out on that. I want him to go play. That's why I'm glad he's got a next door neighbor, and they're good people. Because as he gets older, man, I'm like, y'all go over to the park, go play, go run. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Do kid stuff, go get in the creek, do stupid stuff, throw rocks, Yeah. That's what I want him to do, man. Like, because I don't know, man, being cooped up in the house all the time is just not a good deal.
Yeah, and see with Trey, man, he's always been that. Like when I say Trey is all boy, He's
Yeah.
all board. Like some stuff, I call my mom, I'm like, Mom, was I like that when he did this? Yeah, he's your son. So like Trey, like he has a next door neighbor. Trey's in first grade. The next door neighbor's in third. The other side, he's in first, and a kid that's up the street is in second. So he goes outside, like literally. I'm surprised he haven't asked to go outside. On the weekends, you can't go outside till 10 o'clock. They'll go over to the park. They'll walk over to the park. We stay in a quarter stat, so it's good because I could be like, y'all go, just play in the front. That way I can come outside, look out my window. All right, y'all there. But I also give him that, all right, y'all can go to the park. I'm gonna drive up at the park, check, make sure everything good, come back. So I try to give him a little open area because I remember being that age, I wasn't cooped up in the house, and Lord knows what I was doing at that age. So like he's not that, but at the same time, during the week, since we get home late, he get on Fortnite. Him and his cousins get on Fortnite. Mm-hmm. So like, man, that's my dog, like for real. That's my dog, man.
Yeah, you do. So,
and so I got a question, Hines. So you were talking about, how you grew up and, kind of a single parent, household for a time there, whatever and stuff. And I know that a lot of times our environment affects who we are, now. So I guess I kind of want to ask you, well, first I want to say, shout out to your podcast. I've listened to some episodes, dope stuff. You say you're a fan of ours. I mean, we're a fan of yours too, for sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So you talked about in, a couple of episodes I was listening to, just about all of them seemed like it. You were talking about your hometown, Portsmouth. So can you talk about a little bit just from the standpoint of growing up there and how it shaped your dreams and your desires and your goals to want to, do things that you're doing now?
All right, so Portsmouth, beautiful Portsmouth, man. You wear Portsmouth on your shoulder, man. Portsmouth is everything. It made me who I am today, man. It built toughness. I always say if you're from Portsmouth, man, you can survive in any place, anywhere, man. Portsmouth is the smallest city of the 7 cities out of Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, Suffolk, Hampton, Newport News, but it's also one of the most violent cities. But growing up, you don't realize how it is until you get older and you move away. So things that I seen and I was brought up on, I thought was normal. Now I won't sit here and make it seem like, man, I live in the toughest neighborhood or we was out violent and all this. No, I'm not gonna say that, but I've seen some things firsthand, and when I got to school, I felt like I got to school and I took a sociology class my freshman year, fall 2007, Dr. Greenfield. And to this day, man, out of all 15, 16 years I've been in school, the one thing I remember is the social construction of reality. And basically what that is however you board up is the correct way in your eyes. Now, somebody looking on the outside might think, well, that's not normal, but it might not be normal to you, but to me, it's normal. So when I went to school,
and what is that called again?
Social construction of reality.
Okay.
So when I went to school and I took that class and I learned about that maybe like the second, third week of school, max. So I went to school, figured this out, and I started looking at life different. Not saying everybody back home is bubbled in, but Portsmouth, like, you can get trapped in Portsmouth. You could get trapped in Portsmouth, man, if your head is not straight, man. And let me go back. So coming up, man, we lived the normal lifestyle that we thought, man. Things that we did, we thought was normal. I would not change my childhood for nothing. Everything that I did, went through, made me who I am today. Sometimes it was tough, sometimes it was good. But me and my friends, we did things that we thought was fun. Other people might look at it and be like, yo, why y'all doing that? But it was normal. Like, who would think to have a paintball versus BB gun war?
Y'all did that.
We did that.
Wow.
Who would think to, all right, cars coming in the middle of the street, let's light a firecracker that take 10 minutes to go out? Who would think to have a Roman candle battle, we shooting each other with Roman candles? But that was our childhood, and we didn't think that it harm anybody.
Yeah. Just kids being kids.
Yeah, kids being kids. But we did the typical things. We also played football. We played basketball. We played baseball. We played kickball. We played four squares. We went to the park. So like it also made me who I am, man. I love Portsmouth to the death, but that's the good side. Now, once it gets dark, it's something different. But I was in tune with people, and I knew people who also looked out for me. It been situations that I was in, or I'd be just thinking we having a good time, and somebody could come to me and be like, yo, go ahead home. Then I find out later such and such happened at this place. So like everybody looked out for each other also. But there's any other city, man. Like, that's any other city, man. You have your good parts, you have your bad parts. So then when I went to school and I took this class and I realized about social construction of reality, I started looking at things different. I'm not just looking like how Kid was talking about, it's either black or white or gray area. I started looking in that gray area. Yeah. On different things happening. So and Kid probably could adjust to this. So like when I got to school, I was kind of rugged, you know what I'm saying? I didn't allow nobody to say anything to me. You could say, Alpha Portsmouth, what? You know what I'm saying? You joking, but you know what I'm saying? I'm bringing where I'm from to the school. But you know what I'm saying? Once I got to school, it kind of opened my eyes and realized everybody don't know about Portsmouth. So you trying to hold this image, and somebody from California don't even know about Portsmouth. They don't even know about Virginia. They don't even know about Virginia Beach or whatever. Yeah. So I got to school and it kind of opened my eyes, man. And I went through some rough stuff at school that made me who I am today. So Portsmouth, Shaw equals me right now. Yeah.
So I was listening to your episode with that you had with DJ Baby Boy, and you all were talking about the violence that goes on in Portsmouth, right? So it kind of made me want to ask you this question, just from a dad perspective. We all go through certain things, when we're younger, and I had never heard of this social construction of reality, and I guess it kind of touches on that, where we think, I guess to your point, we think the way we grew up is the best way. We kind of think that that's the best way to raise a kid, so to speak, right? Okay. But then maybe there's a different way, maybe there's a different way, because I think about it, how I grew up, maybe not as rough as, how you're claiming how you grew up in certain aspects, but I grew up a certain way, but I still want my son to be tough. You know what I mean? But I don't want him to go through all the things I went through necessarily to be tough. You want to protect your kids from certain things. How do you balance that as a father, where you want your son to be tough, but you don't necessarily want him to go through everything that you went through? Or do you feel like that?
So this is what I say, man. One thing I hate is when parents or people get on Facebook and be like, where's these kids' parents? Their parents is at home. The parents is doing what they're supposed to. It's the outside environment. You can't control how a person handles a situation when they're not at home. realistically, let's keep it a band. It's 24 hours in a day. 8 hours they're at school. 8 hours you're at work. So that means you got 16 hours left. 8 hours they're asleep. So you have 8 hours in a day. And let's just say they come in the house at 6. So basically between 6 and 8, that's when that parent is there, because they probably be working a 9 to 5. They may be up in the morning or whatever, but you could do what you want to do. You could parent how you want to parent as best as possible, but is that kid responsible enough to not let the outside environment? You could raise your child perfect in your eyes, but kid could raise a child perfect in his eyes. But my child who's around y'all kids, but more than y'all, can influence that kid to go a certain way. So like sometimes outside influences can make a difference, because I remember when we got to school, man, and I lie to you not, man, that first 2 weeks at Shaw, everybody always had the same questions. Where are you from determines who you are. Everybody always had that question, like that first 2 weeks of school. We didn't do no schoolwork. They always asked that question. You always had to give an answer. And when I got to school, I naturally said no. I was like, because I want to be here. But actuality, that influenced who I was. I didn't know. Like I didn't know. I was thinking I'm in school, such and such, but I didn't know I was bringing that Portsmouth attitude with me, because we wear it on our shoulders because we're so proud. We're a proudful city.
I can attest to that. The Hines that I saw over the years is nothing close to the Hines that I met for the first time. It was a different mentality. I mean, he really came there like he was still in Portsmouth and had to be a certain way. And I don't know, it was sometime after that, it was like, I don't have to be like that around these guys. I can just chill. I can relax. We're not about to get in a fight. We're not about to do this. We're not about to do that. We're about to hang out and chill. And he's the first person to tell you, if we somewhere and something about to go down, I'd be like, yo, let's go. I'm out.
But so let me ask y'all this. Before y'all went to school, what were y'all doing 2 days before y'all went to school?
Probably at Walmart with my mom, getting my stuff together.
Yeah, probably just, chilling at the house or something, yeah.
2 days before I went to school, I was in a big fight.
Yeah.
I was in a big fight. That first week I got to school, I probably was about to fight 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I mean, I think once Peanut got killed, I kind of went through like a little depression, and I kind of stopped hanging around a lot of people for like a year or so. And I think that probably like really what changed me.
Yeah.
And like
it was a tough
2008 year really changed me. Yeah, that whole 2008 changed me. And that's when I realized, okay, I was still doing what I was doing, but really my senior year, I was like, yo, I came too far to get in trouble. That summer going to my senior year, I came too far to get in trouble.
Yeah. Cause I remember when Peanut got killed, and I just remember that being a very hard time for you. But Mario, he was just running around and he was just doing this. He was just staying busy and everything like that. And I did not know what he was going through, because he was just staying busy. But when he was able to sit down, that's when I first realized, I was like, man, he's really hurting right now.
Is Peanut like one of the homies for back home or something?
Yeah, Peanut was one of my best friends, man. Like, but also like that year in 2008, from second semester freshman year to first semester sophomore year, I think in that year I probably lost close to 10 people, either death or in jail.
Man.
And that's when I was like, at first I was like, all right, that just means I gotta move smarter. I know I ain't gonna kill nobody, so I ain't gotta worry about that. oh, I know I ain't about to go run in no house, beat somebody, drag them out, attempt murder. All right, damn, Peanut got killed. What? Then such and such of them got arrested. Then such and such of them got arrested. So then I'm like, yo, I can't go home right now. It's too hot. So then, you know what I'm saying? A little bit later, you know, I started realizing where I was at. And believe it or not, it was really when one of my friends who was locked up, he was like, man, you the only one of us that went to college. You're the only one of us that made it this far, man. Nah, you can't do that. It was like, for real at home. But Peanut was a very vital, important role into what I'm doing now.
So let me ask you a question. So, you know, you say you got a counseling degree, right? So, and you know, so I'm gonna say this, and if it's wrong, if it's completely off base, let me know. But I would think that, you know, what you're describing to me, or just me listening to it, is almost sounds like PTSD.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. I do have PTSD, man, and I mean it's not clinically
right.
But based off studying that, working in the mental health, it's certain things like that triggers it. Yeah, I won't tell nobody, but I try my best to keep it under control.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like certain situations, like I used to smoke, so I go to a certain situation where I know like probably could trigger. I try to smoke, so I won't feel that when I get in there, or I drink, and to the point where I'm not thinking about it. So like, yeah, certain situations, man, I automatically snap back into that.
Yeah.
So nature versus nurture. You guys heard of that? So yeah. Nature, you know, basically like your environment and stuff like that shapes you. You are what your environment is. And then, you know, nurture is like the way I treat you can help change that. So like you as a father, going through everything you've been through, knowing like you were that close, it could have been you type of thing. As a father, are you totally like, how are you doing? What strategies, I guess, are you using for like Trey to say, like, I want you to keep going on this path that you're going. I don't want you to experience the things that I had to experience or the things I've seen or whatever. Like, are you like, we gonna stay in a good neighborhood and stuff like that or whatever? And I know you said, you know, you weren't in the hood or anything like that, but like, does that stuff play into your mind? Like, I want him to be in the best schools and stuff like that, so he won't be around it and all that. Like, how does that play?
It plays a factor because like I want him to go to public school.
I agree.
Now, if he get older and like say if he decide to play sports and he excelling in sports and I feel like a private school will help him, at that by then he already learned the social skills that you need to learn. But oftentimes like it's crazy because I really have sit down conversations with Trey. Like I treat him like how my mom used to do me, man. Like the only difference is I'm not giving him no choice if you beating or punishment. Like I have them sit down conversations with him, man. We can talk and have adult conversations. Trey, why you ain't clean your room, man? The reason why I'm on you is because if you do this and this, then you won't have to worry about this.
Yeah.
Or prime example, on Martin Luther King Day, King Day, me and him sat down, we watched Our Friends Martin. And he wasn't understanding like why people was getting treated like that. So I let him know, all right, man, you gotta understand back in the day when grandma was younger, this the things that she had to go through. So I have those adult conversations with him, man. Some people might disagree with it, but at the same time, that ain't your son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That ain't your son. Yeah. So I'd rather him hear it from me, someone else. And I also, is very blunt with him, and I tell him what he need to know and not what he want to hear.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I think that's very
the way
important.
to do it.
Like,
That's the
I
best way
think
to do it.
we have to have good relationships with our kids, but you know, at the end of the day, when it come down to being your friend or your father, I'm gonna choose father every time. I'm gonna choose father every time.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's how it is. Cause I remember my mom used to, I'm not one of your little friends,
yeah.
such and such. Wow. I ain't gotta be nice to you. Of course, I'm gonna be nice because I'm your father, but at the end of the day, you respect me.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking about how we're raised, and I know Tremaine kind of brought up another follow-up question there too, but I kind of think of my own situation. So, and I've said this before on the podcast, and it's not to brag or anything, but I just find it to be a difficult situation being a dad, to where we grew up, my family, we weren't well off at all. We grew up, poor. Okay. If you looking at it by today's standards, I mean, we were happy, my mom, my stepdad, my sister, and I, we had good times or whatever stuff, but there wasn't a lot of money, and I'm fortunate now, having been going to school and, elevated in my career, promotion after promotion, this, that, and the other. I'm making, good money compared to, what my parents were making. I'm making more than what they were making combined, right? But I noticed that like things that I would ask my mom and stepdad and even my biological father for, it would be a struggle for them to get. I'm able to give those things to my kids now just because I can, right?
Yeah.
And my wife and I, we've talked about it plenty of times, like, wow, we grew up, we had to struggle. Not that I want my kids to, see all the struggles that I had to go through, but I feel like having certain struggles made me who I am. It made me have to know how to get out there and go out and hustle and this, that, and the other. And I guess my thing for you, you growing up as rough as and seeing some of the things you did see. And Tremaine, you'd answer this too, right? But how do we balance that to where, like I said, you want to expose your kids to certain things, but not to everything, but you still want them to be tough. You still don't want them to go through stuff. You still want them to learn those life lessons, but maybe I don't want them to see it quite how I saw it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think with that, it depends on, as a parent, at what level. There's nothing wrong with a child having to work for what they want. Me personally, I seen my mom struggle or whatnot. But I've also seen family members who have it, but the way they had it comes with a penalty at the end of the day.
I get you.
For me, man, I've always been the type that went and got it, no matter what. Honestly, I remember staying in Georgia, and he was my uncle, but I called him Papa because my granddad died when I was little, and that was my first cousin granddad. So I called him Papa. But I remember him bootlegging, selling watered down gin, right. And at that age, me helping him came with a price. Now I'm not about to sit down here with you all day. You gotta give me $2, $3. You want me to auntie, you want me to go up to the store for you, the blue store for you, and put it on your tab? All right, add some M&Ms up there, add a honey bun up there. Once I got to middle school, I've always worked, man. 6th grade, me and my best friend Todd, we was washing cars. Even before then, I cut my grandma's yard, but her next door neighbor, Miss Howard, want me to cut her yard, or Miss Miller want me to cut her yard. All right, so that's $10 a yard. Oh, I'm washing cars. Me and Todd was washing cars. We was working up the street at the deli. All right, can we work here? Well, y'all not old enough. Well, we'll sweep the parking lot for $5, or we going to Liberty Tax. All right, we passing out flyers. Well, it's supposed to be passing out flyers, $5 an hour. So like with him, he has to work for what he needs to. I think he's at the point now where, all right, you want V-Bucks? All right, well, I literally just thought of this, but literally, all right. So this is what we're gonna do. You keep your room clean for a week, you get $5. All right, well, you need to start taking out trash now. You 7. At that age, I was doing that. At that age, I was cleaning up bathrooms. You have to instill that, man. Like we never want our child to go through what we went through.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you said, you don't want them to think that everything is just given to them. It's okay. Like it's okay. Now I would never take him and put him in danger. But you still need to understand that it's more than just out here. Like when he cries about certain stuff, you mad? You don't understand that it's somebody out here who can't get nothing. Like me and my wife have those conversations with him.
Yeah.
You ungrateful.
Yeah.
Not trying to diminish him, but certain situations.
You have to be real.
Yeah. You ungrateful. You ungrateful. You want money for snacks at school? I didn't get snacks till I was in middle school, going to school.
Yeah.
You want money, you know what I'm saying? So like, it depends on the parent and the level that you want to put them at.
Yeah.
And I know people, just like you basically saying, clean room, take out the trash, and basically I give you allowance if you do everything you're supposed to do. I know people that have made an argument like that's not good. That's what they're supposed to do. How you gonna teach them how to be an adult if they getting paid for doing house chores and stuff like that? But I'm like,
it's your house.
You wouldn't go to work if you weren't getting paid.
Right.
Oh, I'm contributing to my community. So I'm gonna go to school and teach because I'm educating our youth, but I'm fine. Don't pay me. You won't have a teacher in the city to do that. So I have no problem with rewarding our kids for that. And this is something that I am really struggling with my son. And, you know, I have a daughter coming in May. And I'm really, really struggling with how much is too much when it comes to our kids, because I always feel like the generation before us should push forth the next generation. That generation should put forth the next generation. We should always be on a constant strive of getting better. And I look back even with my dad. My dad was an older dad. You know, my dad had, I think when I was born, my dad might have been like 38. You know, this is in an era where parents were having children in their early 20s.
Right.
And sometimes earlier. So my dad was an older parent.
He was a mistake baby.
Yeah, I was. Clearly.
Yeah.
I was a mistake baby. My mom even said that she wasn't trying to have any more kids. But hey, I'm here. So yeah, 10 years later from my sister. So
that's how my uncle is.
I wasn't supposed to be here. But when I look at it and I'm like, man, my dad was really from the old school. They didn't have much. You know, my dad it was 14 of them. Yeah. You know, they lived on a farm. They lived on a farmer's farm. It was a house. Somebody owned all the land. They lived in a house on somebody else's land. And they worked for them. And then, you know, they were able to get food and all that stuff. That's what my dad came up under. Then he was able to get older, get a job, buy him a house and stuff like that. And, you know, got financially independent. But what my dad knew back then was, if I send my child to college, I'm doing what I need to do to get him ahead.
Right.
And my dad taught me that, but my dad didn't necessarily teach me how to make money doing other things other than having a job. So that's the burden that I have with my kids is I want to teach them how to make money without having to necessarily have a 9-to-5 job going to every day. So that's what I've been kind of talking to my wife about. And I'm like, okay, should we, when they turn 18, put them in positions to have a successful business when they go to college? Or should I wait until they turn 22 and then say, hey, if this is what you want to do, then you got to do A, B, and C? Or people talk about putting things in kids' names. So when they do get to a certain age, then they got a little money already. You playing with a little bit of fire there, because if you put too much money in a 18-year-old's hand, 20-year-old, 22-year-old's hand, and they haven't earned it, they will blow it. If you don't teach them how to manage it, they will blow it. So I'm really dealing with that. And I'm glad we're talking about it, because I really don't know how far ahead or how situated I want my kids to be, because you do want them to work for it.
And see what you just said. I'm not sure if y'all watch Power, but on Power, when Ghost knew he was about to get killed, and he set up things for his family, his son Tariq got like majority of the money, but he couldn't get it until he graduated college with a certain GPA. Now, there's a certain GPA that was out of, but based on what he was trying to set up, because he didn't want his son to go down the same route as he went, he put him in a position, all right, you can have this, but you need to go to school and do A, B, and C to get this. So I think with that, man, it just depends on you, man. Like it's no right or wrong way. Like you said, yeah, an 18-year-old, but who's to say your 18-year-old will have the same mindset that you had when you was 18-year-old? That 18-year-old might be way more responsible and way more ready to handle that. So I think it just depends on the maturity level as he get older for you to make that decision.
And that's the scary thing about it, because maturity has no age.
Right.
You can be an immature 35-year-old.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm teaching him now, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, is just like wealth management. You know, teaching him what you should do so you don't lose what you have.
Right.
Because you go out here buying, you got $1 million and you go out here and buy you a few Lamborghinis, it's over.
Yeah, but that comes with how you raise them also.
Yeah.
And also, you can't cradle them. And that's the one thing I loved about my mom, man. When she was raising me, she allowed me to make mistakes, but we had those conversations prior. We'll have a conversation prior. Then if I made a mistake, we'll have a conversation. All right, well, I'm not mad at you. I'm just upset because I know you. And this, and this. Now see what happened. But if you would have did this, and this. So you just got to have that conversation with them. And be prepared for a mistake, but also be prepared for him to be successful or her to be successful. So, I mean, that's all it is, man. Like, I feel like, and it might be because how I was raised, I feel like once you raise your child to graduate from high school, living and whatnot, you did your job. Mm-hmm. What happens after that is on them. It's not on you. Long as they're in your household and they're successful and they did what you asked them to do, you did your job. Mm-hmm. After that, it's on them. Not saying as a parent, you just go give up on them. But you know what I'm saying? That once they graduate, you did what you were supposed to do. Not saying you will stop being a parent, but you did what you were supposed to.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears here for a second. I know something else I wanted to ask you about. You know, you said that I think you said you were at Kennesaw State. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I know that's, you know, higher education, you know, system. I know, you know, kid, he works in the educational system, and something you said on your podcast, you talked about, home ec being taught in schools and not being taught in schools anymore, right? And so, we've had, a couple of discussions on our podcast here where we talk about, certain life skills, high school and even college to me doesn't prepare you for certain things, right? So I kind of wanted to, dig more into that a little bit, right? What are your thoughts on that? Can you just elaborate a little bit more on what you were talking about as far as home ec not being taught in schools and life skills not being taught in school?
Okay, all right. So I went to IC Norcom. IC Norcom is, we consider IC Norcom HBHS, a historical Black high school. Literally, it was the first school for Black students in Portsmouth, Virginia. Originally, when you went to Norcom, you had to apply to go to Norcom after a while, and part of your agreement was you graduate with a trade. I remember being in middle school, your elective, you had home ec, you had different skills, you had wood shop. This in middle school.
Yeah.
We get to high school, we still have home ec because I took home ec. But they don't have it no more. How can kids know how to, you look at it as an elective, like this is an easy class, I'm gonna take this class just to get an A in it. But you take home ec, you got two different home ecs. You have the household home ec where you learn how to sew, how to do those things. Then you take part 2 where you learn how to cook. People don't even know how to cook really no more.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Women and men, because everything is on the go. Man, let me just go the fast food, man. Let me just heat up some noodles or anything like that. If you was to tear your pants, women back then could easily just sew that. How, like, think about it now. Think about it. Can your wife sew something for you, or will you have to reach out to your wife, mother, or grandmother, or your mom, or your grandmother? You know what I'm saying? I'm not a fantastic sewer, but if I have a hole and I have some needle and thread, I could go sew something right quick. I'm not gonna sit here and be like I could sew a quilt or anything like that.
Yeah.
I
took home ec too, and I had a hole in my pocket. I knew how to get the thread out, tie it off or whatever, and sew the hole back in my pocket. I know how to do that stuff, but kids today, they not getting that.
They can't even use a safety pin to patch a little hole up just to get through a day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like these things are vital. Even what kid was talking about wealth and whatever, making sure that the kids are financially stable. We didn't have those. I mean, we had those business classes, but it was also elective. But I think those should be mandatory classes.
But the stuff is always pushing you to be an employee.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Problem.
They're not teaching you how to do all this stuff. Now, granted, like my high school, they went back and started bringing trades back and things like that. One thing they have is a barber section where you can learn how to cut grass. I mean, I'm tripping. Cut hair. They have a beautician school. But also you used to have to take a test to do dual enrollment. But who want to take a test? Like, honestly.
Yeah.
I took a dual enrollment. I ended up getting a trade in auto mechanics. If I would have known what I know now versus then, I probably would have took auto mechanics more serious, because everybody need an oil change.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody need an oil change. I could have had a used tire business, because everybody don't want to get brand new tires. Some people want that. Let me just get this temporary fix. I'll come back in a couple of months, get another temporary $30 tire.
That's right.
So like these things, these life skills is important. And it's just not no home ec, man. It's home ec. It's ethics class. It's financial classes, man. It's somebody who love plants and want to be a horticulture. So like these classes are very important, and they took it away from the youth. They cut the credits down short, so now you don't need 30 credits to graduate.
They ripped all that stuff out. They ripped all that stuff out because my dad, you know, my dad, he graduated in the 60s and he talked about wood shop and how they taught them how to like pretty much be carpenters.
Right.
So when they graduate, if I can't find a job, I can make my own job. And I mean, it's just so much stuff that I'm just like, why do y'all take this stuff out? And I understand we're in a new age or whatever, but still, y'all not teaching kids how to do their taxes. Y'all not teaching kids the value of real estate. You're not teaching kids how much money they should spend in a month. I mean, like we talk about like needs and wants, but I'm talking like seriously say, look, these when you get your check, the Nikes over there, that is not a need. It's a want.
Right.
Okay. You need to go pay your bills first. Utility, your rent, your car payment, all that stuff need to be paid first. And you need to save 10% or say 10% is supposed to be for me to go get me something that I want.
Yeah.
And see, I never learned that. How I learned how to get credit, this is literally what they told me. Go get the credit card, buy some stuff, and pay it off. Right. You telling an 18-year-old who at Shaw University who ain't got no money to go buy stuff.
That's dangerous.
I ain't even got no job to pay it back.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like these things are important, man. Like, and we also got to understand that you said your dad got a trade. We don't have factories no more.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, like back in the day, you know, you graduate, you get a trade, you go work at a factory. You work there 20 years, you get your pension, your family is good.
My mom got a job and she got upset one day, whatever the boss lady or boss man said to her. She quit the job that day, walked across the street, got a job that same day. And she worked that job for years. It was a good job. She had worked that job for years at a telephone company for years after that point. So you telling me how many people you know today can just quit what they're doing and just walk and just say, I'm going to give me another job just as good or better tomorrow?
Well, I ain't going to say just as better, man, because I have a friend who he stay with a job. He worked every fast food place from one boulevard to the other boulevard. But for me, it was different, man, because like when I moved down here, it was literally like a whole year that I was looking for a job. Like, I know for a fact I applied to over 200 places. And out of those 200, probably like 50 hit me back. And out of those 50, 25 of them was underpaying me. And the other 25, I want to say, let's say, majority of them was either underpaying me or I was getting paid by clients, but I wasn't having insurance.
Yeah.
I wasn't having benefits. Even the job I got right now, man, I took a pay cut. I took a pay cut, but it had insurance.
Right.
And now that I'm older, those things is more important.
Because you got a family.
Now, don't get me wrong.
You're right.
I want to get paid, but you know what I'm saying? Insurance. That was a key thing, man. So like it's just different, man. Society now is building us up to, all right, you don't need to get a trade, go to college. Like they're saying back then it was you have a skill, we could utilize that skill. Now is go get your education. You got an education, but you don't got experience. How can I get experience if nobody is allowing me to get experience, or I got to take an internship for free?
Yeah.
Or take a pay cut to get their experience just to get back right here instead of being here. So I got to take 5 steps back to get 2 steps ahead. Yeah. And that's just what society is nowadays.
And that's what I was talking to a guy the other day, a young guy, you know, don't have no kids, not married, anything. And he was talking about getting into some investments, right? he was talking about getting some investments, talking about how he wanted to, you know, be able to work for himself one day and be financially free. And one of the things he was asking me was, do you know a school that I can get my business administration degree from? And I was like, man, all you need is an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how hard is checks and balances? You don't need to spend more money than what's coming in.
Right.
Simple. And then, you know, we talked about even like buying a house. What's the process of doing that? And I was like, dude, you got the credit. If you don't, you know, get your credit card and use that method, spend it, and then pay it off and build your credit up. But all you need to do is just go talk to the bank if you need a mortgage loan. But this stuff should have been taught in school.
Yeah. And reality is, you don't need to go to school, man. Get on YouTube. YouTube has everything now. Just keep it in the band.
That's the thing I told them. I said, YouTube is the best teacher nowadays. You can go on there and find out anything you want to do. Just type it in. And if you weave through, because some people are not good, but if you weave through it, you can find out everything that you need. Just about everything I found, been doing in the business game right now was not what I learned from college. And that's no shot to college, period. Mm-hmm. That's not a shot to college. But I'm just saying the things that have made a difference in my business have been what I learned from places like YouTube and on other podcasts. Hand to God. That's honest to God truth.
YouTube and Google, that's all you need.
Yeah.
If little kids can do this, why can't adults use YouTube? Think about that. If little kids can figure out stuff on YouTube, why can't adults? And I'm one of those people. I use YouTube at the last resort when it could have been my first resort and cut down 2 or 3 hours that I was trying to do something.
That's about one of the first.
The wrong way. So yeah.
You said it earlier. You know, to me, it's the money thing. That's the way I look at it. You said that earlier, Hines. And as I see it, you know, education is important, but that doesn't necessarily mean college. And I think a lot of times, because, you know, a lot of things they're set up on money, you know, these colleges get pushed to, you know, poor people, and you get sold a dream that, you know, you go to college, that instantly means you're going to have this great life and this wealth and all this stuff. And that's not necessarily the case all the time. Because colleges, to me, aren't teaching you certain life skills. High school it's not teaching you certain life skills, you know, like it should. But that's right.
No, and you absolutely right, man, because I tell you one thing. I was getting recruited by the apprenticeship to play football there. Mm-hmm. So like the apprenticeship is basically the school for people who work at the shipyard if they want to get a certification for something. So I could have went to school for welding, played football. I transitioned that and became a manager, supervisor, something like that. Right there. So like, I'm not saying if I had to go back, I would have did that. But I'm just saying it's like those things, like school ain't for everybody. Everybody don't want to go to school. Everybody can't excel in school. Some people are more hands-on type of person. Some people can't sit in class and when the professor's talking, they sound like they're Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? That prime example, me and Kid had a teacher named Zoror. I could not in class and concentrate because he literally talked the whole time. Now, if you give me something to study, I look at it, I review it, then it's different. Prime example, my midterm grade versus my final grade.
Yeah, and that just tells you the difference because you couldn't stand it, and I loved it. I absolutely loved when he was telling the stories because it helped me retain the information. But everybody's different.
Right. So like some people are just hands-on. Like even like with me, like trainers and stuff, I be in training class like, Lord, man, let me just get in there. And once I learn how to do it, it's a wrap. I can master it. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It just depends, man. I'm not a person who want to push people to go to school. I was like that at first. When I first went to school and I first graduated, I used to tell people, look, man, you need to just go to school, man. Get away from here. Go to school, find out what you want to do.
I was the same way.
But now,
yeah, I used to look at it the same way. To me, I look at it back then. I drunk the college Kool-Aid, and to me, not saying that I look down upon people who did a trade, but I looked at it like, okay, I'm going to higher education, da 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 da. But I tell you this, being in HR for a manufacturing company, do you know what we pay people who have skilled trades backgrounds? It's crazy. It is crazy. Like, it is so much of a shortage, man, that we will pay people like way above market value to be a mechanic, to be an electrician, to be a welder, to be a pipe fitter, all those different things. And it's so many kids that are getting steered away from not even thinking about doing those types of careers, working with your hands. Because if you can work with your hands, you can find work anywhere. Right. My opinion. But if you got a degree in no offense to anybody got a horticulture degree, but you brought it up earlier, it's only certain places you can go to, right?
Yeah.
If you can work with your hands, if you're a mechanic, you can open up your own business being a mechanic. If you're an electrician, you can open up your own business being an electrician, or you can go work for this manufacturing company, do you some side work. You can do all sorts of things. But if you majored in horticulture, there's like a narrow lane for you to do stuff in. And like people getting sold on these dreams, they're like, oh, you go to college and your life is going to be great. It's going to be perfect. It's not right. And I disagree with that about the whole entire educational system.
I'm going to tell you who broke down the best college jump. Cameron on Killer Season. He broke what it's like going to college now best. He said, you go to college, you graduate, you make $40,000. Your rent such and such. You got to pay that. You got to do this. Break that down. He said, so you end up with $2,000. You want to get fresh, so that breaks you down even more. So like, man, that college don't a dream. Unless you want a full scholarship, I suggest you to really think what you want to do. Now, if you want to go to school just to see how it is, okay, I get it, But me personally, like when I have that conversation with Trey, do you want to go to school? Are you prepared to pay this money back? Because I'm not taking no loans out because I already got enough on my own. Now, if you really want to go there and you adamant about it, okay, of course, a parent, you want to make a way.
You're going to do what you got to do.
But that's just talk that I'm going to have that talk with him. I ain't paying it. So do you really want to go? Mm-hmm. Of course, it's going to be more detailed, but I'm not going to push college on him, man, because it's some people who didn't go to college who's very successful. Some of my friends started working at the shipyard after we graduated. And that's a federal job. And like, what, seven more years, they'll be 20 years in, and they only 40. And some of them already have supervisor positions. And I'm only using the shipyard because that's where I'm from. Yeah, it could be anywhere. Yeah. Kid, how many times I was in school and I'm done track, man. F this, man. I'm about to go work at the shipyard.
About every week.
Like for real. Yeah. Like for real though. So like, man, college ain't for everybody.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about your relationship with your son and how you talk to him as if he's an adult in certain situations. And my son is 12. And, we have, heart-to-heart conversations a whole lot and stuff, too, as he gets older, because later on in this year, he'll be a teenager, So, I talked to him about various things.
I had that.
And
y'all have that birds and bees conversation yet?
See, I'm getting ready to go to that. Ooh. So it's two conversations that my son and I, that we have had already. One is the birds and bees conversation. And the other one is, let me explain it like this, right? So we grow up where he's growing up right now. We live in Kansas. All right. Okay. Where Kid and I grew up in Virginia, it was more Black people in that city than white people. Okay. But where we are in Kansas, we're not around a whole bunch of Black people. You know, you got some Black people, but there's not a whole lot of Black people here. So, you know, it's important for me to have that conversation with him that, hey, you know, you look different. You are different. You know, people are going to see you differently than, you know, this white friend of yours that you got. You know, y'all friends now, and that's great. You know, I don't steer him away from, you know, judging people by the color of their skin, anything like that. But I have to be real with him, and I have to say, people are going to judge you by the color of your skin. You don't do it, but people are going to look at you and think, oh, you know, you're a young Black kid, you got braids, you know, you walking with a hood on, you know, you up to no good, you know. And so I had conversations with him like that when he was even younger, like maybe your son's age, you know. And now as he's getting older, you know, I'm always thinking like, you know, I got to make sure that I'm instilling in him, you know, to be respectful to people, this, that, and the other, because I don't want him to get caught out there, you know, and being a stereotype, so to speak, but, you know, still being himself, being true to himself. So yeah, those are two things I was going to ask you about as far as, you know, you being a father and with your son, you know, have you had with him as far as, you know, Black, and then also. And
I'm very upfront with him, man. If something's on TV, like it was a video that I was watching, I didn't know he was in a room. And a police officer killed the little boy. And he was like, what happened? And I just told him straight up. Like, I'm very blunt with that. I don't sugarcoat the race thing with my son. He's 6, and the police officer killed him because he was Black. Straight up. Like, I'm very blunt with him.
All right. Well, we thank you guys for listening to the Dad Rules podcast with Mario E, Kid, and today our guest Hines. We thank you again for coming onto the show. Appreciate guys, like, share, and subscribe to our podcast, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Rules podcast with your hosts, Mario E and Kid. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, follow and like us on Facebook and Instagram. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Breaker, and Player FM. Till next time.